In this month's Light Bites, I'm going to feature tech that shouldn't scare you, starting with Google Sheets, because I know some people, like myself, might feel intimidated by Google Sheets, might think it's all data or numbers and spreadsheets, but it really is so much more than that. I've used Google Sheets to organize projects as my own like curriculum journal, basically, going unit by unit. This is my favorite thing that I've done with Google Sheets that I'm going to live demo, which is have students do like an assessment reflection and track their feelings and how they do on each test and quiz. An assignment tracker, so much easier to be like, hey, you're missing assignment 9, and be like, hey, you're missing this, and then describe this random thing to the student. You can use it as a weekly and daily agenda template. There's this really cool Halloween fun story since we're almost at Halloween here. You can even use it if you are an English teacher and you have kind of like a novel study or a novel tracker for students to take notes, to track their reading, to write down notable quotes and passages. So I've put all these together that you can just steal, copy, use a template of with some stuff from Allie and Jess as well into this Google Doc that is linked to our Light Bites that we're emailing out. But let me live demo how to create the assessment reflection for your students. So I'm just going to start a new tab here. I'm going to go to sheets.new, my favorite little shortcut, to start a brand new Google Sheet. Now, if you're brand new to Google Sheets, this is a brand new sheet, and you're new to Google Sheets, I'm going to walk you through some of the basics here. So let me just title this assessment reflection. Let's say I want to make like a big header and call this students like term 1 assessment reflection. I'll type that in here. And let's just say I want this to take up the whole thing. I want to merge these cells. So I'm going to click A1, which is where I started typing term 1 assessment reflection. Let's just say I want it to go all the way out here to G. I'm holding down the shift key and I'm pressing G1. So now all of these cells are highlighted, and I'm going to click this button right here, merge cells. And I merge them. And now this has become one giant cell. And maybe I want to move this to the middle. Awesome. Okay, I have my title here. Let's just say like we want the students to fill out the date of the reflection or the date of the assessment. Was it a test or quiz? Do they want to take a retake? Okay, maybe for the retake, I want this to be a checkbox. Maybe I want them to be able to check yes or no. Yes, I want to take a retake. No. I'm just going to highlight starting from C3. Let's just say I'm going to go down to C20. Highlight all those and go to insert checkbox. Now students will just check off if they want to take that retake or not, and be really easy for me to check and see. Let's just say we put here, how are you feeling? And we can keep going. So maybe you want to say, how did you study? We want students to notice trends like, if you study using Quizlet, do you do better than if you study using flashcards, like, old-fashioned flashcards, and things like that. And maybe we want students to say, how challenging was it, and give them a scale. We do all that, we can say we have some editing things to work on. So you see how in this cell, how did you study? It's getting cut off. If I just double tap that boundary, it's going to automatically adjust it to how big the writing is, how much room the writing takes up. Same thing, double click. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. If that doesn't work, and you just click random things like I just did, you can always take that and scooch it over. A couple other things that I want to show you obviously is adding the text here. So I am going to click starting again in A1, or that big blob now that I have, and highlight all of it. I can come up here just like I would change the font in a Google Doc or anything like that. Maybe I want this font instead, and I want it to be size 14 bigger. Okay, again, now if some of my formatting gets messed up, double click and I can easily adjust those columns. So much nicer than like trying to pull them and all that fancy stuff. Okay, now this is starting to shape up, but maybe I want there to be alternating colors. So it's just a little bit easier for my students to see. I can do that by, again, highlighting the area that I want to have alternating colors. And I'm going to go to Format, Alternating Colors. Maybe I want to pick this nice red color. Or maybe I think that's a little too intense because this is tests and quizzes, and maybe I want to make it a little bit nicer, calmer green. I can say if I want the header to be a different color or not. In this case, I kind of like it, and I can adjust these as needed. I never really kind of am okay with the basics from Google Sheets, but please feel free to go for it if that's what you would like to do. Let's just say I'm worried that as students continue to fill this out and they scroll down on this Google Sheet, they're going to miss those headers. If I want the headers or these first two columns, first two rows, not columns, to freeze so that as students scroll, they can always see them, I can absolutely do that. I'm going to take, again, my giant A cell and highlight down here. I'm holding Shift again to highlight those. I'm going to go to View, Freeze, 2 rows. And now those are frozen for me. So as my students fill this out and it goes down and down and down and down and down, I don't have to worry that they're going to miss those headers, which is really nice. Now, I title this Term 1 Assessment Reflection. Let's say I really like this and I want to make a copy for Term 2, Term 3 that students can just keep using and using and using. Super simple, super easy to do. I just right click down here on my Term 1 sheet and I do duplicate. And now I can call this Term 2. If I want one for term 3, again, same thing, right click. Oh, I just moved that. I'm sorry. Right click, duplicate. Now this is term 3. And if you want to kick it up a notch, if you're feeling really fancy, you can change the color of the sheet. So if I right click, I can go change color. Maybe I want to make this one blue. Term 2, right click on term 2, change color, make that one red. And I can do the same thing for term 3. So I know this was just a little quick intro. Obviously, there is so much more that you can do with Google Sheets, and Google Sheets was not necessarily meant to be an assessment or reflection sheet for students, but it's still a really useful tool. Basically, anytime I start typing on a Google Doc, I ask myself, wait, can this be a Google Sheet? And I try to track anything over time. In this case, I really wanted students to have one place where they put their thoughts and feelings after each test or quiz that we took. So it isn't like they click out of it or put it in their folder and poof, that disappears. I wanted them to try to get to notice trends over time. I also wanted to check in and see, like, how do they feel? It opens up good conversations because some students will come up to you and say, well, I earned a B, so I feel happy, and they like won't know how to feel. So it opens up good conversations. Well, like, well, how much effort do we put in? Does how we feel relate to that effort? And so on and so forth. So again, please feel free, especially if that felt intimidating at all, to kind of get your feet wet or dip your toes in by checking out some of these activities and resource and templates that are already linked for you in our Light Bite. Same, but as always, you can reach out if you have any questions. Good luck.